welcome back. It is the Jack and Jer podcast. It is May 25th. It's a not as beautiful day as the weekend, but it was still pretty nice today. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend, and hopefully you guys are excited to hear a little bit about vanity metrics, something that's been on my mind as I've been growing a few social media pages. Actually have a bet with Jack on one of those growth pages or for TikTok. But basically what we were discussing was, are some of those metrics that people are so fascinated with just vanity metrics, and do they actually matter? So what do you think, Jack? Or what do you have to add?
So just as some background, vanity metrics is a term that I learned about in Eric Ries's book called The Lean Startup. That's one of those go-to books for entrepreneurs when they begin their journey. It's one of those books that people recommend pretty early.
The Lean Startup by who?
Eric Ries. And
got it.
The idea of a vanity metric is something that looks good, potentially, or is reasonable to believe, is linked to progress and growth, but in all reality, doesn't actually move the needle, isn't actually linked to moving the company or the movement or whatever it is forward. So for instance, an example of that could be, you're posting articles and views or clicks on your article online. It's reasonable to say that you're getting all these views and clicks on your article. That's probably a good sign of engagement and people wanting to read what you have to say. But, you gotta take a look underneath the hood. Maybe the reason they're looking at it is your title is just all clickbait. Until someone opens it, reads 2 sentences, realizes it's a, load of poo, and they're like, all right, I'm not reading this whole thing. Or maybe it's the reason people are getting your article is it's part of a pop-up where the exit on the pop-up is one of those micro X's that none of us can touch. And so you end up clicking the article thinking you're clicking the X and it pops up. Yeah, exactly. And so even though you're getting the clicks, it's because all of us are frustrated and we're just actually trying to exit out. Yeah. So even though the views and clicks might look good because they're going up, it doesn't actually mean that what you're writing is actually moving anyone or, engaging people. And so that's an example of a vanity metric.
So why do you think people are aware that these are vanity metrics as they track them, or why do you think people get so hyped up about vanity metrics? I know for some reason the most common one that I think of, or one that pops up, is Instagram followers, and specifically for I've noticed this at least 3 or 4 times, fitness professionals who just get very fixated on how many followers they have versus how many followers other fitness people have. And I've been involved in some group coaching for some of those, and basically what comes up a lot is the followers don't matter. How many of them pay you? How many of them are engaging in your content? How many of them are commenting? If you have more people commenting and you only have 100 followers and they have 1,000 followers but no one commenting, that's probably better for your mission for generating revenue or growing. So why do people get fixated on that though? Because it seems to be common.
So I think there's 2 groups of people. There's the people that are actually 2 big groups of people, and then some small amount in between. So there's a group of people that actually don't adopt the idea that there are such things as a vanity metric. They find numbers that work for them. So maybe it's followers. Maybe if you're trying to get in shape, it's losing weight. Because listen, I weigh about 185 pounds. I'm about 6 feet tall. If I really wanted to, I could drop 10 pounds of water weight in 48 hours. And my weight could look down, but that doesn't actually mean I'm a healthier person.
That's a great vanity metric. Weight.
Exactly.
100%.
So there are people that don't even take the time because they haven't been either introduced to the idea or have truly adopted it. And so for them, they're looking for any type of gold star that's going to help give them momentum moving forward. And listen, there are a lot of things where building momentum is incredibly important. So, you take it and, you want to keep moving forward. But if you're the difference is if you're putting all the weight behind it. If you're saying that all those followers, all those clicks, the number on the scale is actually proof that you're doing something good in and of itself, that's the problem. So I think the reason people put a lot of weight behind them is because it takes a good amount of time and effort and intro inspection, I guess, to really lift up the hood and be like, what's actually running the engine here? Like if I'm in my, weight loss, healthy journey, am I more concerned with the weight on the scale, or am I more concerned with like body mass index, or maybe how fast I can run 3 miles or 5 miles, or maybe how long I can hold my breath, something like that, or maybe it's my resting heart rate. What is really doing it for me? So I think we live in a soundbite era. People's attention spans are flickering. And so I think part of it is it's so easy because it looks good on the surface that it takes a special person or a special type of discipline to say, hey, that looks good. But just because it looks good doesn't mean it's actually doing what I think it's doing.
Definitely. And I think the example that resonated with me that I want to comment on is like BMI. Because what I was thinking about is BMI incorporates different metrics that alone might be vanity metrics, but when you turn them into ratios, vanity metrics can actually become useful. So sometimes vanity metrics are needed, but they're not needed to be looked at by themselves. They're needed to be looked at in comparison or in growth terms or in ratio terms. So for example, like page views probably doesn't matter for most e-commerce companies, but page views divided by sales might, or page views divided by number of users times something. I can't think the best off the top of my head, but sometimes that page view might be a good denominator or numerator for a certain ratio that actually might give you some good KPIs. What's KPI stand for? I feel like it's the opposite of
key performance indicator.
Key performance indicator, which I feel like is kind of the opposite of vanity metrics. Key performance indicator is something like that's really telling you the health of a company. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and vanity metrics can be applied to so many things. If you think the key to happiness is filling up your bank account with money, and that's your KPI, that's your metric that we're going to call your vanity metric, there's a lot of people with a lot of money that aren't happy. Right. And so if you're banking on getting a certain amount of dollars in your bank account, and that metric's going to indicate when you're happy, when you go from having 0 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100, 1 million, that's the metric that you're looking at, where all of a sudden the switch is going to go off and you're going to be happy. Then that might be a vanity metric, because that might not actually be moving the needle. So like one of the ways to think about it is, if you can improve upon that KPI, it should be causing a additional benefit to increase. So let's go back to working out, because it's so easy. Maybe your weight is the vanity metric, where you think that like, oh, I dropped 10 pounds, but lo and behold, it's all water weight and whatever. That's not actually indicating you're healthy. Maybe the real metric you should be looking at is 5 days a week I did a 40-minute strenuous exercise. And so it may not sound as sexy, but guess what? If you streak together week after week, month after month, of 5 days a week working out with good diet to go along with it, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find anyone who's going to say that you're not getting healthier, you're not getting fitter by just checking the calendar off every day or 5 days a week. Doing it. So one of the ways to think about it is, if you ramp it up, if you go from 100 clicks to 200 clicks, are you actually getting better engagement? If you're a follower, like a fitness model, whatever, on Instagram, if you go from 10,000 to 1 million followers, is that great? Well, if you can, I guess, get them to buy whatever you're selling, then yeah, that's great. But if they're just a bunch of horn dogs that are looking at pictures of your butt and they're just clicking there, and the second you have anything to say of substance, they're gone. They're just there for the free booty pics. Then maybe your followers isn't the thing.
Yeah. Dang, I had something and I just dropped it, but I was, I kind of want to think of it now. What was it going? What did you say right before the looking at booty? I think when you said booty, I just started imagining fitness booties.
we talked about like working out, like is maybe the right metric 5 days a week, like checking the calendar.
That's it. Yeah, 5 days a week. So I feel like related to vanity metrics is kind of you're kind of like wanting expectations that are out of your realm to influence. So instead of saying I'm gonna get like you said, I'm gonna well, for weight it's not as good, but saying I'm gonna get 1,000 views on YouTube, that might be a vanity metric or not as useful as saying I'm gonna post weekly for the next 2 months. Because saying you're gonna post weekly for the next 2 months is something you actually are in control of, not something that might, and if you do that, you might get, or you'll probably get the 1,000 views, and you're in control of that. So I feel like that's kind of related too, is like making smart goals, to not just track vanity metrics, but to actually track, like, are you reaching your goal? Are you on your way to your goal? Do you have any other ways you think, how do you make smart KPIs or metrics to follow if you're starting a new business? What would you like recommend or do?
Well, businesses that one of the ways to think about business is the idea of, when you're growing a business, is the idea of a flywheel. A flywheel is a wheel that has a group of things in it that if you increase any one of them, it's like putting a weight on a wheel, it's going to make it start turning. And the inertia of the turn is going to make it go more and more. So let's do Amazon real quick. Amazon's flywheel is to offer to offer things as cheap as possible. Okay, that's what they said. A to Z. Jeff Bezos, stories of him using a door as a table, as a metaphor of, like, we're not spending money on desks, we're literally just slabbing wood together, and this is where you work. So Amazon's flywheel is you put things as cheap as possible on Amazon. By putting things as cheap as possible, that gets more customers. By getting more customers on our platform, that gets more third-party sellers onto our platform. By getting more third-party sellers, we're increasing competition, which is driving down prices. By lowering prices, we get more customers. Now we're back at a flywheel. We're going fully circular. So the idea is, if you pull any one of those levers, other things should be going with it. Lower prices, more customers, more sellers, more sellers, more competition, better prices. And so, when you're thinking about it, you really want to be figuring out for your own life, for your own business, how to construct your own flywheel as well as possible. And so, it can be tough. Both of them can be tough to, like, give examples of, but it's the right KPI is what actually gets things going. So if you were to have a website, views are good, but clicks on the second page is better. And then better than clicks on the second page is time spent on the second and third page. And then better than time spent on the third page is people that go to press the checkout button. And better than that is people that actually order. And so you have all these funnels going on. If you can figure out how to increase one of those funnels and things start going with it downstream, then that's probably a really good metric to be honing in on, rather than a vanity metric of just clicks on your website.
Do you have an example of a vanity metric and then of a good KPI from your experience in a startup, if you're allowed to comment on that?
Yeah, so we had really great customer satisfaction for our startup. We had like 90% of our customers saying they loved our product. But that wasn't what we thought it was. We thought, if they love the product, they're just going to be here forever. We didn't realize culturally how much we needed to hack culture and hack the norms of doing business down there. Because what we would learn is there's a huge educational barrier where our providers would do deliveries, and the drivers, I guess, would give the customers their numbers or their receipt or something, would have their number on it, and the customers would start calling them afterwards. So we thought that all this customer satisfaction was a great thing. We didn't actually learn. We did learn pretty quickly, because we would see that people would miss out on the second order, then come back for the third and things like that. But we didn't realize that we didn't need to just home in on customer satisfaction. We needed to like hone in on like education and like
Huh.
building like habits. And so, it's not really a great secondary thing to bring in there. But like for us, we thought like, oh wow, everyone's so happy using our product. That's got to be like what's going to drive the engine, and it's not. It's these other things that we had to worry about: educational, hacking culture, getting people to like look at us as not an emergency service, not as a last second service, but as the new way of doing business.
Huh. I like that. That was a good example. What about so that was kind of an example of a vanity metric. What was like the best metric that you guys would refer to, or like that you knew the company was doing well?
Uh, it was usually if a customer ordered three times
Mm.
in the scheduled times that our data showed how many times they'd be ordering. So for gas, depending on what tank they have and how big, the average order was about once every 40 days. And so if they ordered three times in 120 days, we pretty much could guarantee
They're gonna be
that
ordering.
they were going to order again the fourth and fifth and sixth time. So that was one of the big things that we honed in on. And there's this John Taffer line where he's talking to a restaurant person, and he was saying how for restaurants, when they say it's a first time customer, you put the red napkin down, and that gives the waiter and everyone an idea it's a new customer. And then you like treat them really nice, you give them a discount, whatever. And then before they go, you're like, hey, you love that? Come back for our cheesecake. We'll give it to you for free. They come down the second time. And then after they come the second time, you do whatever. But basically, he was saying his data showed that if a customer came two times, they're happy both times, their chance of coming a third time exponentially increases. So he was honing in on something similar, which is like, it's not the first time they come. It's not how much money they spend the first time. It's not, any of this other stuff. It's the third time. If they come the third time, they're locked. Or if they come the second time and they have a good second time experience, then they're locked in. So you have to put all this weight and effort into the first and second time. You can't just be all one, and you just can't be all two if you want to have a lifetime customer. So there's other things where it goes into it, where obviously it's great to have a new customer, but it's really about the repeat customers where businesses are made.
Right. And then I guess it sounds like a lot of these metrics you kind of have to play around with them and see what works and doesn't and what you're looking for. It seems like you're not going to know that before you start your business or what you're doing. John, who did you mention?
John Taffer,
John Tap.
he has this show called Bar Rescue. I think that's how he got
Oh,
really famous.
that I didn't. I was like, I recognize the name. I know who you're talking about. The guy who gets really mad. uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't know that metric until he already did it. You're not gonna know that all the time before you start your venture. You might have an idea, but a lot of time I feel like you have to play around with metrics, see what works, and then and dig in sometimes and realize, oh, someone's missing the phone number or whatever it might be. Um,
Yeah. Like for us back in the startup, we were for a long time spending a lot of energy and resources making sure our on time rate was good, making sure our communication was really good, doing all these things. And we're like, oh, wow, our on time rate's 95%. Oh, wow, we communicate within 3 minutes, 4 minutes every time we get a message. Oh, wow, we do all these things, but none of those things move the needle.
mm-hmm.
Those were all vanity metrics for us. The customers, they may have liked it, but it didn't actually cause them to do a repeat order. What caused them to do a repeat order was the first, second, and third, getting all three of those orders in. So we
Mm-hmm.
had to figure out how to hack them so that they started relying on us more. And it's difficult, but all I'm saying is, yeah, you gotta be very intellectually honest with yourself and with your business to constantly be second guessing. Is it on time rate? Is it how much people are spending when they come? Is it customer satisfaction? Like, what is it that is actually the best indicator that people are going to come back and use your product or service again?
Right, and I feel like a savvy investor would be aware of vanity metrics, but for some reason, I feel like vanity metrics are a lot of the time used to try and like sell to a customer or to another business or to a VC or something. where you say, hey, look at our customer satisfaction, it's 99%, and that might sell to someone and be like, oh yeah, take my money, that sounds amazing. But if you only got 3 customers and only asked 3 of them, like, that 99% is not too impressive, but you'll still get more investment that way. So I guess there is use in trying to trick people, which I'm not really a fan of, but they can be used.
Yeah, I don't. It takes a special type of person to try to trick people when it's like taking their money to grow a business. Now, if you're a con man, you're a con man. But,
well, sometimes I feel like people aren't really aware even that they're doing that. Like they might think that metric is really important, but it's not.
And that's more of what I'm getting at. I more and more, I actually believe that whether it's politics or business or whatever else, people genuinely believe a lot of what they say. They just may be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's actually malice. I don't think anyone's like actually like a nefarious actor or anything like that. I just think that a lot of times people are wrong and they're not like open-minded. So if they're saying that like, oh, this is the indicator that's going to show growth, I don't think they're trying to trick or pull an over on anyone. I just think that they haven't actually figured it out, or someone's told them that and they bought into it. So,
right.
Yes and no. Like some people are sociopaths, some people are con men. Like they will tell you everything possible to get your money and whatever. But, all I'm trying to say is whether it's personal or business, what do you look at to see if you're like growing and improving? What metric is that, and how confident are you, whether it's weight loss or something like that is the right metric to use? Is the number on the scale more important than week after week putting 5 days of the week in the gym or doing the right type of workout or eating right or whatever it is? Like, what is actually the right metric to use? And once you can figure that out, I think things become a lot easier because you can become more singularly focused on that.
Definitely, I agree. So I think that was very informative for me on vanity metrics. It's the whole time you've been talking to me, that's why I lost my train of thought a few times. I was thinking of vanity metrics of my own that I'm, even knowing that they're vanity metrics though, I can't get over just wanting to like grow them, which is weird. Like I've been growing, like I said, a couple social media pages, and one has been growing a lot the last like couple weeks. It doesn't really matter. Like the conversion of those followers to my Shopify page, that's way more important. But for some reason, I still like catch myself just getting fixated, like, oh, we caught 1,900 or oh, whatever. And it's tough to do that. So as you've been talking, I've been like, what are better metrics for me to define, to track?
Yeah.
I've been doing this.
And so I want to ask you real quick, if you have any that comes to mind. I want to give a couple examples that I just thought of for people at home that are listening. Here are some other vanity metrics. How many books you read. If you're reading a book a week, that doesn't mean anything if you're not actually consuming the information and learning from it. People are way better off reading a book a month if they like take that book to heart and they actually learn about it, rather than a book a week and then it's out and they forget 90% of it. Yeah. So how many books you read is a vanity metric. How many friends you have on Facebook and Instagram. If what you're really looking for is like deep connection with people, having 10,000 friends on Facebook and Instagram is not going to be a substitute for having 10 people in your life that you can actually confide in. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of wanted to give a couple more examples so people can think about it more personally about like, is reading a book a week the right way to go for their self-development? I would say if you can't actually absorb the information, no, it's better to take 2 weeks to read that book.
Right. Or changing it to, instead of reading one book a week, like discussing one book a week with a group of like-minded people to get an understanding. Like you can also change it a little to make it work a little bit better, I feel.
Yeah, and truth be told, last year, that was like going into COVID, that was probably my biggest vanity metric. I was consuming book after book. And I was learning a lot, but I may have been better off taking, instead of a book a week, one book every 10 to 11 days to really just slow down, reread some things and things like that. So just me being truthful, I actually take a little bit longer now to read because I'll sit there and I'll reflect. But is there something off the top of your head that either you think of now or looking back that like you now are approaching it differently because like you identified that that thing was a vanity metric?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say money overall, I'm not as focused on. I feel like that's a little bit of a vanity metric. I know you need money, or some people need it more than others, but I feel like being a millionaire is doesn't mean that much to me. Like, I like to think of how many people have you helped, or like what's your money doing for people. Just having it doesn't mean as much to me, and it doesn't equate to happiness either. I think weight was a really good one. I liked that a lot. Where I feel like being in a right range is a good metric, but being fixated on your number weight doesn't matter as much. I like to focus more on like how much am I exercising, what's my like flexibility and my endurance at. I think is a little bit better for me than just knowing like how much I weigh. And then I I feel like just back to my Instagram followers or whatever, that metric alone I don't like, but using it as a ratio, I do have some use of it. So we have Instagram followers, and then we have a Signal community, and then we have our Shopify. And basically, the ratio from Signal community to Instagram and the ratio of customers on Shopify to Signal has been pretty useful, and kind of like what Laffer says about like the third time they're in, the people on Signal are kind of like, you know, they're going to order again. They're invested in the community. A lot of them are like participating daily in the community, which is great, but you know that those people are probably going to buy your product at least once more time, at least once more, if not more. So that's been like
Yeah.
a metric that I've been using, I'd say, a little bit more of.
Yeah. And, you know, another way to think about it is metrics are only as important as the goals that they help achieve. If you're a business, you don't just like tell people how many followers on Instagram or something you have. It's about like customers or time spent on your page or consuming your content. Like your followers is just one indicator.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you biz professionally or personally are posting about something and that thing in and of itself isn't leading directly to more sales or growth or personal development or something, it's probably a vanity metric. If you're boasting, like, you know, weight, listen, we're going to go back to working out and, you know, weight and health and stuff like that just because it's so easy. But like, you know, there's a lot of people that have eating disorders and that are anorexic and things like that. And if what they're telling people to make themselves feel better is the number on the scale when they're anorexic or bulimic, the reason like people try to, if they're overweight, lose weight is to theoretically be healthier and a more able lifestyle. So the number on the scale, if you're anorexic and whatnot, is not the indicator.
Right.
So, you know, and I'm not trying to throw anything under the bus or anything like that. I'm trying to be sensitive towards all of it, but I'm just trying to say this in a different way. So if you're listening at home, you can, you know, think about it. Is it more important for me to say that I'm reading a book a week or my number on my scale or how many followers do I have? Is that what's actually doing it? Or is my goal to live a healthier lifestyle? Right. In which case, exercise and diet is my goal to build a community, in which case, yeah, maybe I don't need all those followers. I just need people commenting and engaging and talking to each other and spreading love and whatever it is. So it's just another way to think about it.
So brings me to a good segue for our ending segment of like what you learned for the week or something to share. And I didn't even think of this until a minute ago. It kind of hit me. It might be debatable. Maybe it'll be something we talk about in next episode some more. But I think price is a vanity metric for Bitcoin. And I think this last week, with everyone freaking out with the prices tanking, and people freaking out that Bitcoin's done, bear market, everything's over, blah, 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 I think that price doesn't say, price is important. Obviously, it's not like not important at all, but that didn't say much to me. Like seeing more banks accept it, more small businesses accept it, more addresses being created weekly, more transactions, more all of that. Those are metrics I'm interested in, and then those are also metrics where I don't. I feel like this is a lot of manipulation as much or more so than like the actual substance of Bitcoin, where just my thought. But the last week in crypto is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really interesting idea. I think price is potentially a vanity metric because it doesn't necessarily indicate the
The utility, the use, the
yeah,
growth.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Uh,
Because I was talking to someone earlier about this, um, and they're like talking about the price of Bitcoin. They're like, why'd this happen? Blah blah blah. Blah. And they're trying to say something about like the Bitcoin network or something. And I'm like, fundamentally, Bitcoin hasn't changed in 6 months.
exactly.
There's nothing that's happened. The only thing that has happened is
Yeah.
you and millions of people like you and institutions and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, price is interesting because like, Q2 reports come out for stocks. They go up, they go down because they made earnings, they didn't make earnings, and things like that. There's like underlying reasons there. Bitcoin, there's really like Ethereum's doing a new rollout of Ethereum 2.0, and that's something that has underlying value to it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing that you point out that like, yeah, the price of Bitcoin is the price of Bitcoin. It doesn't change the fact that the underlying technology is still going to disrupt money as we know it, in
Exactly.
my opinion. Yeah.
Yep. So, anything you'd like to share before we head out?
Um. No, the only thing I'd like to share is like, listen, it's not for me to say if you should or shouldn't get vaccinated, but if you are vaccinated, go outside, don't wear a mask, like live our lives, I'm convinced that there's people out there that don't want this pandemic to end.
Yeah.
I was in an elevator with people last week, and there's 4 people. I got in the elevator without a mask. I'm vaccinated. I whatever, and struck up a conversation with the person. I knew who it was. He's in med school, and I by accident asked him, I was like, "Wait, aren't you vaccinated? Or you're like a senior in med school? Like, aren't you?" Or finishing up med school, like, don't you have to see patients? Like, don't you have to get vaccinated? Right? He was like, yeah. I was like, why are you wearing a mask? He's like, I know. Him and the 3 girls, the 3 girls he was with, they're all like, yeah, we're vaccinated too. We don't know why we're doing this. I was like, then stop. The
Yeah.
CDC said this. The president said this.
I
Fauci said this. Why are we doing this?
I know. This might be what we talk about next week though, because like I still wear my mask sometimes too. I don't know. It's
Like,
I don't know
like
why. I understand you don't need to. I don't know. I guess I have few feelings on it. I agree with you 100% or 99%. Um, but I guess I understand the people who are doing it a little. Part of me, I honestly, I want the pandemic to be way over. I feel though that we're not completely out yet, and I don't want to like celebrate too much until we're really out of it. I don't want to get like a false sense of like, oh, we're great, and then be back in it, and then I just it doesn't matter too much, but I can't help but feel that like half the world is still like getting rocked, and I feel bad
yeah,
promoting that I'm just chilling and doing whatever I want now because our country has money and could provide for us, and we are all vaccinated. Where ideally, I wouldn't promote me having a good time until like the whole world is able to, I guess.
yeah, but at the end of the day, the science says that if you're vaccinated,
Yeah.
you don't have to do it. So
Right.
I'm with you for 90% of that. We got to be taking a serious look at what's going on in like India and some of these places. And there is a need for assistance there, but I'm just afraid that like the science is in front of us and we're just like not paying attention to it. And like this
Yeah.
seemed like it used to be a thing where people would be like, oh, Republicans don't pay attention to science. And now it seems like it's the opposite, where it's like all these people on the left are like afraid not to wear, they're afraid not to
It's
wear a mask
That's exactly
because
it.
they don't want to seem like they're on the conservative.
It's
And
become
I'm like, but
political. It's become
yeah.
political.
So like, would you rather be follow the rules or follow the science? I'd rather follow the science every day. So that's
Yeah.
what baffles me.
No, or like I saw just before I went on a run, there's a girl riding a bike 100 yards from anyone else and wearing a mask outside. I don't know. It's just it's interesting because you probably don't need to do that at this point. Um, I guess this might be the last comment in case we need to delete it. It feels kind of like whacking off with a condom. Like, why would you do that?
I don't know. Why would you? But I'm not the one bringing it up.
That's
I will say one of the
wearing
things.
a mask vaccinated.
I will say one of the things I learned, because we did talk about this a little bit, was that there's new reports surfacing that a couple lab technicians from the Wuhan lab were hospitalized in early November of 20, I guess it would be 19.
Yeah.
And so just more speculation
And we brought
that
that
like
up
it's
before, I think, right? That it's weird.
not that the technicians or the people in the lab got hospitalized. And I just want to add a comment to it. I'm not saying that like China, if it did come from a lab, I'm not saying that it was like a bad actor, like they released it out in the world, but like, what is it?
Should be
Smallpox. Yeah,
research.
smallpox in the 1970s after it was eradicated, escaped from a lab. There's this disease called the foot, the hand, the hand and foot.
Foot and mouth.
Foot and mouth disease that escaped from a lab in like the 90s or something from the UK. Anthrax apparently was escaped from a lab in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, this shit happens, and I'm not trying. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that like Big Bad Wolf came and released it to cause this. I'm saying it could be an accident, but regardless, like, you know, it'd be nice to get some resolution to like actually what happened, and maybe shut down these fucking labs since we know we can't contain this stuff. Why are we creating super viruses?
I know, it makes no sense. Crazy. But it sounds like I don't know, there's a few topics that we just brought up that might be on the agenda for next week, because I enjoy when we start just getting really excited about what we're saying. So that was a great episode. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Jack. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. Like, subscribe, comment. I apologize the last couple of weeks. I feel like things haven't been updating or posting as quickly as they were before, but hopefully I'll be back onto my routine. So thanks as always. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, everyone. Jack, peace out, brother.
Peace out, buddy.
Nice. Awesome. So